Welcome, everybody, to the MiniMapCast. This is minimap.com.au's weekly games podcast, your favorite weekly games podcast. My name is Kerry Palmer, and joining me is Jeremy Braditich.
Hello.
But that's not all. We have a guest on the show. We're kicking off a whole new thing. We had Paul James on a couple of weeks ago, and now we have from the head of gaming and streaming at the Cure Cancer Research Charity, also formerly of Ubisoft Australia, we have Shane Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us today.
How are you, Kerry? How are you, Jez?
I'm good. I'm so glad we've got you on.
Oh, thank you. I'm so pumped to be here. This is the best time of year.
Isn't it
Christmas.
So fun?
Let's go. Love it.
Yes. And not only that, but we have actually some very exciting things to talk about after today's presentations that we got, or last night's presentations, I guess. I'm really excited for this episode in particular. But Shane, for those who may not know you from our audience, or sort of what I'd like to know, I guess, a couple of things. So as I said just at the start there, you're the head of gaming and streaming at Cure Cancer, which is just, it sounds awesome. I'd love to know what that means for your role in a way that I'm sure the audience does as well. But I hear you have something of a history with Xbox, and I'd like to know what that is for you as well, heading into this showcase recap.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Let me try and surmise my 33 years of gaming history in 60 seconds. Love gaming, always wanted to work in games, was obsessed. Did a bit of video game retail at the now defunct Game. Rest in peace.
Oh, nice.
Did like a lot of like volunteer writing in like my early 20s, just for like tiny Australian websites. Started my own podcast, which back then that wasn't like doing it on YouTube or Twitch wasn't a thing. We did it on iTunes for the longest time because I wanted to get into games media. I was like, I want to go work at IGN or something. So I'm like, I need to get confident behind a microphone. So me and my mates did a podcast for like 3.5 years. Got like media passes to like EB Expo and PAX and that sort of thing. This was like back at the first PAX back in the Melbourne showgrounds. And then what happened there? Oh yes, I won't go into the very long story about how I got this role, but by perchance I got an entry-level position at Ubisoft Australia back in 2015 as a sales and marketing assistant. Moved into trade marketing, eventually communications, PR, social media, and then ended my time there as esports and brand manager. The main game I worked on was Rainbow Six Siege. So I was working on local esports and launching all the new seasons, particularly the Australian season in 2019, and games like Watch Dogs Legion, Anno, Just Dance. But got to work on like a bunch of other games in my 6 years there. So bit of a some might say veteran of the games industry. I don't like to call myself that, but there aren't too many people with that. Yeah, the old guard. Yes, and then I don't want to explain how this happened, but Cure Cancer was at the time, maybe like 3 years ago, exploring what it was like to fundraise amongst the gaming community. And it was going really well, growing really fast. And they thought, okay, we need to make this like actually a thing and develop it properly and get some people onto the team who know what they're talking about. So that's when they hired a head of gaming and streaming. That's when I joined the team. We also have a gaming and fundraising executive, and it's been going really, really well. We just hired a third full-time person as part of our team of 20 all up in Sydney. And our organization just funds cancer research. We're cancer agnostic, so it's not one particular type of cancer that we focus on. It's all different types, but we do our best to try and fund the best, brightest scientists from all around the world. They submit their cancer research applications to a panel that we have internally of former and current researchers. They assess all these applications from around the world for all different cancer types, rank them based on merit, based on brilliance, and then it's my job and the job of the fundraising team to raise as much money as possible, and then we just go down the list and try and fund as many cancer researchers as possible. In our 50-plus year history, we've helped fund global breakthroughs in tons of cancer types like breast cancer, immunotherapy, childhood leukemia. You can learn more on our website, curecancer.com.au. So I won't take up too much time of the show. So I like my job as head of gaming is just to work with anyone and everyone in the games industry to fundraise as much money as possible. You saw us last year at PAX. We'll be there again this year. We work closely with the guys at Generosity and Oz Speedruns, work closely with our publishers as well. Like you can actually donate your Microsoft rewards points on Xbox to Cure Cancer if you like, and Microsoft will donate on your behalf. yeah, worked with a ton of publishers, worked with Bethesda a lot. I harass my friends at Ubisoft all the time for things. Yeah. So gameoncancer.com.au is the website if you want to learn more about what we do in gaming. We've got some amazing ambassadors, names you're probably familiar with, like Stephanie Ben Dixon. Skill Up recently joined as ambassador, which I'm super, super proud of. He was like my first call when I joined the team.
Nice.
I'm like, hey, Ralph, do you remember when I took you that one time to Paris to check out Rainbow Six? Well, I'm doing something different now. Come over here. Yeah. So I love it. It's the best, like using my passion, what I love, video games, my expertise in the industry. And now instead of trying to sell, more copies of Rainbow Six, I'm like, hey, you guys should donate to cancer research instead.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit more important.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Shane. Yeah. That's so inspiring, honestly, as
thanks,
fellow
man.
media industry aspirants, I guess. So that's, what a cool way to sort of make your path through this industry, as small as it is in our little corner of the world.
100%. I'm often reminded of my career advisor once telling me, it's like, one day, Shane, you're going to have a job that doesn't exist today. And I like to think that she was dead on, that there wasn't a head of gaming at a cancer research charity back in 2008 when I graduated. So yeah.
That's such a cool thing to hear from a careers advisor. I never heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way of the world now, right? Like, who knows what jobs they're going to be in like the next 5-10 years even.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I remember visiting you at your booth last year, and I remember looking at it going like, yeah, no, this is good. This is one of the better things that's happening around at PAX. So I'm so glad that you're going to be around next year as well.
Yeah,
again at PAX.
Yeah,
we'll be able to catch up, which will be good.
We will be there for sure.
Well, awesome. Thank you for that roundup. And then, just quickly, what is your history with Xbox? If you had to sort of pick a console, or if you had to watch one showcase each E3 season, would it be the Xbox? Would it be the Xbox showcase?
Yeah, it's the Xbox One. I think I've been watching it live since I had broadband internet. There was actually one year where I was like overseas in touring the UK. I think it was in Scotland at the time. And I was like, sorry, guys, got to skip this tour. I'm going to sit here in the cafeteria of my hostel and watch the Xbox E3 briefing. So I grew up a Nintendo kid. I had Super Nintendo was my first console, 64. And then one day I waltzed into my local EB Games, saw this beautiful black thing with this sci-fi shooter on it. And didn't look back. Traded in my 64, got Halo on the Xbox.
You would have been close to like the perfect age target market that they wanted for that console, right?
I was 11 years old at launch.
Yeah.
And then like the very first magazine I ever bought was OXM because Halo 2 was on the cover. I'm like, oh my God, they're making another one. Have to and that getting that magazine was like then my like path into obsessing over the industry, like, wanting to know everything about the industry. And so I credit Halo with my deep love of the industry. And it's still my favorite franchise. Like, it has its ups and downs, more downs than ups, let's say. But I love it. I still love it to this day. There's nothing like Halo. So hence the sword tattoo.
There it is. I was gonna ask if you hadn't brought it up. Yeah, there it is.
Now I never need a weapon. That's what I tell people.
Well, I'll ask you more about your opinions on the recent turn with the Halo franchise during the break, maybe. But for now, let's get through the intro and then get to this loaded Xbox showcase we had this morning. So for those of you who weren't aware, this is the MiniMapCast, minimap.com.au's weekly games podcast. We're here every week, every Wednesday, with 24 hours of early access given to all of our wonderful patrons. More on that in just a sec. If you like what you're hearing, make sure to tell your friends, give the show a positive rating. Wherever you're listening to us or watching us, be that on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, it makes a huge difference, and it only takes a couple of seconds. If you want to get notified every time a new episode is released, you can make sure to follow us on social media. We are at MiniMapAU on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and also Twitch, where we are live right now every Monday night, 6:30 p.m. 7:30 we've been trying recently. One of those two, Australian Eastern Standard Time for the live recording of the MiniMapCast. We always hang out with chat before and after and during the show. It's a fun time. People are roasting me for my use of the word aspirant. So if you want to join in that, you could tune in on Monday nights. We wanted to say thank you to Shook for letting us use the Moog Model D Improv as the music for the MiniMapCast. You can listen to more of Shook's music at shook.bandcamp.com. And finally, Minimap is completely independent and funded almost entirely out of our own pockets. So if you'd like to help keep the mics and lights on, maybe after you also go and support curecancer.com.au, you can support us by becoming one of our patrons. For only $5 a month, you get 24 hours of early access for all episodes of the Minimapcast, some extra bonus features like our 2009 PlayStation press conference sort of retrospective watch along we did a few weeks ago, which is good fun, and more. You can head on over there to patreon.com/minimapau to help us out. And remember, it's cheaper than a latte with oat milk. And you know what? Honestly, it might just be cheaper than a latte these days.
I paid $7.40 this morning for a regular latte with oat milk.
Okay, I thought mine was bad. I'll pay $6.20 for a large oat cap.
I got hit with the plus 15% public holiday surcharge,
okay.
as was recorded in the actual little receipt screen thing as I ordered it. I saw them just hit a little button that just cost me more. I went,
and it was too late for you, wasn't it? You were in.
I needed it. Like, what am I gonna do?
Without the spoilers, Kerry, 2009 E3 showcase from was it all right? That's Uncharted 2.
It
right?
was.
Yeah,
it was
Uncharted
first
2.
showing of Uncharted 2, which was a decent show. It wasn't the train, which I thought it would be.
Right. Yeah. When did they show the train? Was that earlier?
I must have been later. It was the bit with the helicopter in the town.
Okay. Yeah.
But also a couple of I'm thinking the things that are coming to mind I want to leave for people to watch. But it was also they were still supporting the PSP.
Yeah.
And they announced a lot of the show was no. A lot of the show is dedicated to the PSP Go.
The Go, yes.
Which was just fascinating because it was like twice the price of the old PSP that they were still selling. It was like, what are you guys doing?
And it was so close to the end of it. So close to the end of that console as well.
Yeah. They showed it at the front and both Jeremy and I thought it was the Vita.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's definitely worth going back to and watching.
Nice.
So, speaking of E3, while it is dead, it also isn't. It still lives on in all of us and in the very DNA of everything that is coming after it, like Summer Games Fest, which happened this last week, like the Xbox and Starfield Bethesda showcase, whatever they called it today. And we had PlayStation, we got Ubisoft tomorrow. It's been a great week for announcements. It's been a bit more spread out. This week in games continues to change and become something increasingly different each year. I feel like this has been quite decent so far in terms of the last week of what we've gotten. Everyone having their own day feels, I know it's beneficial for the companies. I know that's what they want. But I also feel a bit better about it. You know what I mean? Like I could digest everything that happens one day and then we come ready for the next thing. Or even when you have those more general conferences like Summer Game Fest, where you can have PlayStation and Ubisoft and Xbox and all of these different groups and Capcom who all have their own things coming up in the future or just had them a couple of weeks ago. They can still come to these things and every group of people, whether you're a Sony person or whatever, you can still be excited by these things. So I think it's been a really good couple of weeks. But maybe I'm just coming high off today because Xbox's showcase, I think, was excellent. It was an excellent showcase. I'd love to hear what you both thought of the showcase overall before we dive into our specific sort of favorite moments.
Yeah, I think it was one of their better ones. I think that it felt good. I think because there was a good mix of the actual games being shown, some fun announcements, but also the thing that gets me with the way Sony are doing it now and the way Nintendo have been doing it for a long time is that there's just not that many people that I see in front of a camera, and Xbox at least bring people out. They have people showing off their stuff, even there's not that many people, but it's at least enough that I can understand and be reminded over and over again, because it's good to be reminded that all of these things are the work of people, and not just studios with names and logos. I think Bethesda especially, they've always done a really great job at putting people in front to show off the games that they're working on. I think Ubisoft do a pretty good job of it as well. But Bethesda, like for the entire Starfield thing, it was all about the stories that people were willing to do in that game. Like the different things that they enjoyed doing that wasn't necessarily objectives or just fun moments that they were able to share with some of their coworkers while they're working on it. Like all that stuff, I think, is what really makes or breaks a showcase. And so, yeah, for me, I think the most positive thing about the Xbox Bethesda showcase was that there were people there. It's such a ridiculous thing to want, but like, it's so important to have.
We didn't get that with Sony.
No, and you got that a little bit with Summer Game Fest, but a lot of the time it's just kind of Jeff introducing it with like kind of a lame sentence, with the occasional a charisma-filled actor.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a bit more old school E3 press conference in that sense, where it's just like, here are, I can still recall, like Xbox showcases E3 years gone by where I know some corporates up there, it's just like, I'm proud to welcome the cover star of Madden NFL 19 onto the stage. And it's like, Jeff, I'm so excited to be the cover star of NFL 19 this year. Go and pre-order the game.
Yeah.
Yay. And it's like, it's a fine balance because it's like, yeah, getting people up on stage, it can be really, really cringy. I think some, like we'll get into it, the Summer Games Fest, like the way Nick Cage really engaged the audience, I thought was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like Keanu Reeves a few years ago, that was amazing to see him come back this year and have a bit of a cameo. Was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, Shane, just overall, how did you feel about this showcase compared to years prior?
Yeah, I think this is easily their best showcase, and which is kind of nuts considering it's probably one of their shorter ones. The last couple of years have been about 90 minutes. And this one clocked in just at about 60, which was quite a surprise. I think for me, the thing that Xbox does really well, and that's really why I like the brand, that they've knocked out of the park the last few years, is that they constantly deliver on variety. There's variety in their first party. There's variety in the kinds of publishers and the names that you see on stage, whether it's Sega or Koei Tecmo or Bandai Namco in years gone by. Or they do a good job showcasing the indie publishers as well, like Annapurna or Devolver Digital or Thunderful this year as well. There's always like a lot of variety. They're really committed to their live service as well with exciting updates, which I love. And it's, a game like 33 Immortals or Dungeons of Hinterberg, this, indie game made by two people somewhere in like Eastern Europe, shares the same stage as Starfield and Hellblade and Fable.
Yeah.
And I think that is Xbox's strength. Like this is probably like a discussion for another time, but I think Xbox has done a good job of really changing their complete brand image. Like Xbox used to be seen as like hardcore bro shooter console, Halo, Gears, Call of Duty, and now I think they're everything but. Like they're succeeding, even though Halo's in the gutter, sad to say. And like as a fan, I can still be excited by the brand, even though Halo's not popping off or Gears isn't popping off right now, for instance. So yeah, I thought it was like easily their best showcase. Yeah, so my original point was they're hitting on what they've always done well, which is variety in my eyes, but they also address the core criticism of the past few years, which is single player first party and gameplay. And every new game they showed or they revealed from first party this year was a single player game. So yeah, I'm stoked that it really feels as though that promise from 5 years ago at 2018 when they bought all those studios is finally coming to fruition. So that's as a fan, that's so exciting.
And it's really important because any conversation about Xbox basically since the Xbox One has been dominated by like what are they gonna do next? Yeah. And it's sort of been limping along ever since. Even
every single op-ed opens with like, we all remember 2013. It's like, it's 10 years.
And then it became the anniversary of everyone remembering the reveal, right. But this year was fascinating because it was much more of seeing finally from these studios they bought 4 or 5 years ago what is actually bearing fruit from those investments and from everything we were told to be excited about back then.
Yeah.
Jeremy, did you look like you had a point there?
Oh, it was just like just talking directly to your point, Shane, about like the Xbox having this previous brand of the shooters, like there was no Gears, Halo, or COD at this like showcase at all, which is just wild to consider. Like considering that has been their namesake for such a long time, especially 100%. Halo and Gears. And I think I was not the only one that was surprised we didn't see Gears, because it sort of felt like a Gears year, and yet there was no update from what they were doing.
I also haven't heard anyone who is that bummed about it yet.
No, like I think like Gears comes out and they release pretty well, and they do all right that they can continue making more. It's like I don't think that Gears is selling new people at the moment, but like the franchise chugs along pretty well. What I did think was interesting, which I know this makes a little bit of sense considering the recent release of Redfall and how that we're probably just never going to hear from that game ever again. That's
a good point. I thought we'd hear like new update or new expansion or something.
I think they might just sort of like in my opinion, I think they might just put that one to bed, and they'll just get Arcane working on the next thing. But we didn't hear almost anything from Bethesda aside from Starfield, which I know is their huge thing, but there was nothing from id, nothing from Machine Games, nothing from Tango Gameworks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it was just Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online, right? Aside from Starfield.
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised we didn't get the Hi-Fi Rush DLC, because those achievements leaked on Steam earlier this week. I'm like, they did say that their extended showcase in a couple of days' time will have stuff that we didn't see at the showcase. So like, look, fingers are crossed for that, but I think it's wishful thinking. And I guess the only DLC thing we saw was the Sea of Thieves Monkey Island crossover. But I thought there was a good chance we'd see Indiana Jones this year.
That was what I thought we might see. Hang on, my internet has just dropped for a sec. I was expecting to see Indiana Jones as well. Considering
it has been 3 years since Doom Eternal, so
and that movie is like months away. Like there was sort of reason to believe that maybe they would try and at least get a little bit of cross pollination going. But I guess like when Machine is ready, they'll do their own thing.
Yeah, and it is a departure for their studio as well. Totally. It isn't Wolfenstein. If it needs a bit more time in the tank, sort of similar with Fable, right? Not getting a date. It's a driving game studio that's making this fantasy open world RPG. So like, take your time.
Back on Gears though, like the rumors about a Gears collection were so strong. They were everywhere. Shoe in for sure. I would have put all money on that being the case. And I do think it is important for the Gears franchise, because right now Gears 2, 3, and Judgment are not playable natively on PC. You have to play them via the cloud. And if you want this to be an enduring franchise, like PC is where their growth is right now. So I think it makes sense. It could be one of those things where like I think the rumors are about that Metroid Prime remaster where like it was ready, they were just sitting on it for the longest time. They might be just waiting to hold it until Gears 6 is actually closer to release. To build up for that. So
I could see that.
I also think that I was thinking about how much we knew about the second half of this year after this conference. And then I also thought back 6 months ago to their developer direct, where we got Forza news, we got the Hi-Fi Rush announcement and release, we got Minecraft Legends, Elder Scrolls, and something else.
Redfall.
And how that gave us sort of the roadmap of what to be excited about for 6 months. I feel like we have less of that distinct roadmap here because the scope was a bit grander. But man, why did I bring this up?
I'll quickly jump in and say, like, there were a couple of games that I was actually quite surprised didn't appear. Not massive stuff, but things like, so there was a game called Ara History Untold, a 4X strategy game that was announced last year from Oxide Games, published by Xbox Game Studios, that was promised in that 12-month period from June to June. And I thought, okay, well then I naturally assume that's maybe delayed to later this year. But yeah, no show at all. The developer has been giving updates on social media, and I think they've been doing some blogs as well. So I think it's not in trouble or anything like that. But another game that I expected to see. Contraband as well. I thought it was time to see that one. A couple of no shows.
Yeah. So let's get into our sort of our individual top threes, our favorite picks here. When I was writing my list, I actually kind of struggled to get this down. I thought, I'd have my kind of top ones, but I had a number that sit fairly highly for me, which I was surprised about. But yeah, I think the one that I'll just breeze over, I guess because we'll see it again later. But I really loved the reveal of Star Wars Outlaws at the start of the show from Ubisoft, from Massive.
Yeah.
What a great tone cinematic trailer for the set piece for like scene setting of what they're aiming for with that game. Because we knew nothing about it really before this.
That robot's wearing a trench coat. And it's cool as hell. That robot's wearing a fucking trench coat, and it's dope. I'm so excited to see that, and we'll see it tomorrow. But
yeah, I think that's really exciting because it's the promise of like, okay, I'm okay with like a CGI trailer to reveal something.
Yeah,
I'm even more okay when it's like, okay, you're going to see more of it in the next 24 hours. I think for me, it's surprising that it's seemingly a single player game. I think they've specifically noted that.
Yep,
definitely.
That's the last thing I would have expected from Massive, considering their heritage. So
yeah. And open world as well. Fully open world, which is more in their wheelhouse. But it's cool to have them. Like, it's like Star Wars games have been so awkward for such a long time now, and it's good to finally see some really strong single player things in motion, with with the recent Jedi Survivor, with this, I know like Eclipse is working in the background, which I'm not excited for because David Cage, but like there's other stuff happening around, and I'm glad that we're getting more showing than canceling in the Star Wars games department, because it was it was kind of dire for a little bit there.
We're moving past the EA era.
Yes, yeah, basically.
100%. So I'm really excited. Like, Massive is such a talented team. Yeah. I'll throw up my Ubisoft bias flag here, and say like their Snowdrop engine is insanely versatile. Snowdrop has been used to make not only the Division but Mario plus Rabbids is run on Snowdrop engine.
Oh, you're kidding!
Is South Park, the Fractured But Whole. So
wow.
It is like an insanely versatile engine, so it can do anything.
And
I'm not too concerned about how it's going to run and look.
According to Wikipedia, which has got citations, so is the new Avatar game is running on that engine as well.
Oh, fantastic!
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's their engine, right? Snowdrop. It's Massive's engine.
They've made that. Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of my ones. Shane, what was one of your three?
I'm going to jump in here and steal Fable. Yeah. Open the show. I really wanted them just to show a dog, just because I want there to be a dog again. The dog is such an important part of the Fable experience. So I'll wait for them to confirm that later down the track. What blew me away was that they specified, and this is true for all the first party stuff, in-game footage. Now, I don't know which parts were playable.
Honestly, I don't buy it.
It was kind of, I'm just like, I can see how this would be gameplay, but the camera's like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't quite look so amazing that it was like definitely CG. Like, you could believe that this was all in game. So I kind of wish we just got more of like a locked camera, maybe like a couple swings of swords. But look, they are nailing the tone of this game, the humor. And that's what I want. I don't like, a lot of people back when Fable was revealed, it's like, oh, finally, like Xbox is going to have its own like Witcher or something like that. I was like, I don't want that. I don't want like a dark, brooding, gritty Fable game. Like, Fable is funny and irreverent and silly. Like, let Fable occupy that space that it has to itself. It goes back to like why I love the brand. Like, there are games that Xbox makes that just no one else is making. So I want Fable to remain Fable, be silly, be over the top. Let me dress up my character in stupid, let me marry someone, then immediately kill them, like that sort of thing. Like, it's like, let's go back to the good old Peter Molyneux days where it was all ridiculous.
And I think, the tone of Fable, you're right. Like that trailer, starting off with Richard Ayoade from IT Crowd.
What a masterstroke.
Yeah, like perfect. Like, I'm trying to remember who was describing it after. I think it was Phil Spencer talking about how they're keeping it that English sense of humor, which is a really good. Like, I'm really glad that they are holding on to that, because it really makes that entire experience feel more unique. But also, I think that having a franchise like Fable be a regular hit for Xbox will allow the overall brand of the publisher do feel more variety, which is good for them, really. Like Fable, it can be so versatile. So yeah, I'm glad to see that we saw it, because I realistically wasn't actually expecting it this year, but I am more than happy to see it.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad we didn't get like a release window at the very end.
Yeah.
So look,
I think it the only game that didn't get even a window.
South of Midnight, the next game from
That's
Compulsion,
true.
Didn't either.
So that's funny. They opened with their most furthest away non-committal games.
Potentially, yeah. I think A Clockwork Revolution, which is like skipping ahead, but that from In Exile, that also said coming in due time.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So So it's kind of, I was kind of hoping for like a fall 2024. Who knows? Maybe they're aiming for it and they just don't want to commit.
Honestly, fair.
So I hope it's no further than early 2025.
Yeah,
that's my hope.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something there, and we sort of discussed it a couple of times already, but I do want to bring up this commitment that Aaron Greenberg made on Twitter about in-game footage and all of that. And it reminds me of the last 2 or 3 years. There was the console launch year where they said, "Oh, all of this is gameplay," and then it was so cut up and so cinematic and didn't really hit. It didn't really feel like that. It felt like a lie at the end of the day. And then last year we got that all things shown here are coming out in the next 12 months, which is like, whoa, that's exciting. If that happens, that's so cool. And then it didn't. And they've been dragging that ball, that iron ball chained to their ankles through the street for the last 12 months as it hasn't worked out for them. And then they come out a week beforehand with this commitment as well, and just replied to someone on Twitter where Aaron Greenberg says, "None of our first-party games in the show are full CG trailers. Everything is either in-game footage, in-engine footage, or in-game footage with some cinematics. Each of our trailers will be labeled so it is hopefully clear for our fans." And like they opened with Fable, which seemed like maybe there was a set piece there of the giant fight, right? Which would like sort of like an Uncharted moment, maybe that is gameplay. But if that's true, that's a very cinematic style where you kind of can't tell if the fidelity is that high. Or what was the next one? The
South of Midnight. Yeah,
South of Midnight. That seemed almost entirely that was just a cutscene. You know that.
Yeah. I think they said in engine for that one. Definitely not gameplay.
That,
yeah,
that is important. It is different. At the same time, it's not the same as in-game footage or in-game footage with some cinematics. Like I feel like they committed to something that in the end no one's gonna really like care too much about, so it's fine. But like, why are they so set on these weird bars? Like, no one else is asking for these commitments. They come in with them, and then they know what they're going to show, and then most of the time they don't meet their own bar that they set.
Yeah, in-engine is so fascinating because they were talking after the showcase about how a lot of the first-party Xbox games have moved over to Unreal Engine 4 and 5.
Right.
Which is interesting because of the dramatic upgrades that engine has had over the past couple of years. But
it's also not internal. It means like commissions across the board.
Totally. But on top of that, Unreal is now used in movies and TV shows. And so the idea that in-engine footage, there are things that you can pull details out of games that are being shown off via in-engine footage only, which is, like basic tech specs that they're trying to meet, like levels of fidelity are not going to be dramatically higher in-engine footage to the actual game, whereas when it is purely cinematic, they can do like whatever they want. For example, the Star Wars game. Like it is funny now that line is being more blurred, considering that in-engine footage is realistically the same place that Star Wars movies and TV shows are being put together. Which is it's a funny thing that we've maybe held on to as an industry just for like maybe a little bit too long now, only because in-engine used to mean it's going to kind of look a lot like this, whereas engines are now just so much bigger than what they've ever been. It is interesting.
It's almost a compliment to the engine, right? It's just like, well, you look almost as good as CG sometimes. So what's even the point anymore?
Totally, yeah.
Like we to your point, Kez, like we know it's not going to look that amazing when we're actually playing it. Yeah. Back to the weird promises. Like I don't understand why they do that. Like the 12-month thing was like in the moment hype, right? Like amazing. Oh my god, all these games are coming in Game Pass the next 12 months. Like I'm eating like a king.
Yeah.
In reality, it doesn't happen. So it's a great PR win in June of that year, and then after that, it's 12 months of just like all these games get delayed, and like they're doing it for games that are not even in their control, like indies and third parties that
like Silksong,
delay the game by their own volition, and they can't do anything about that. So look,
exactly.
that should be the first and the last time they ever make that promise. Yeah,
100%. And surely they learned that lesson at the time. Like if we ever see it again, I will lose my mind.
No one would ever trust them to. Yeah.
Jeremy, what's on your list?
We saw Avowed.
We saw it.
I'm so excited. That game looks fucking sick. Obsidian are back.
Yes, that's on my list as well.
Oh, it just looks so good. We saw Obsidian be Obsidian, and that looks like really exciting.
How amazing! One of the things I loved about it was how vibrant the world was, without that Fable sort of silly cartoon feeling, but also sort of steering away from the grays and the whites and the drab of Skyrim at the same time. Like it is such a unique vibe of what they're going for.
And there's like Outer Worlds is interesting because it was like there was a lot of color in it, but it had a specific palette. It kind of looked like the No Man's Sky cover art, which I think was an interesting choice, and like I don't not like it at all. But yeah, like Avowed looks vibrant. It looks like there's a lot of contrast across all the colors, which is really cool to see. And also we got so many little like teasers and tastes of the caliber of writing that Obsidian is known for, and their style of story and their style of narrative and characters and morality and all that stuff that makes Obsidian games some of the most interesting RPGs. I am so excited. I'm so glad that we've got a year at least. Like it's a 2024 game. It might get delayed. We don't know, but I'm glad that they've put a time frame on it. I'm not looking at it going, we're not going to get this until the end of 2025 or whatever. I'm excited that they are like again releasing an RPG of this size, which is cool. It looks to be a bigger game than Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
And I love Obsidian. I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, this was the game. I don't often get excited by cinematic trailers, which is what the Avowed reveal was. What was that, 3+ years ago now, or at least 3?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. But that one hooked me at the time, and I've been waiting for it ever since. Which is it's just so rare for me. I don't allow myself to get excited by promises like that, I guess. And seeing it here, it honestly wasn't much, but it was such a nice check-in. It was such a nice, here's a taste. We're not ready to give you more yet, but here's a bit so you can sort of let your imagination run with this. You can get just a solid understanding of what this will be now, because we're coming to the other end, the other half of the other end of development. And we'll see you soon, hopefully, with more details. I'm thrilled that we saw it here today and that it is coming down the pipe. Yeah, but not too close to Starfield.
I think that's important too. I think for me, like, if you're not a fan of Obsidian or you're not familiar with them, you probably look at the trailer and like, oh, cool, like an RPG, like this looks great. Yeah. But if you know Obsidian, and then like Jeremy, you can see the writing. For me, it was all about like, okay, this is going to be a proper RPG through and through, where like that script at the end, that main narrator dialogue, was saying, will you save us or destroy us? And the character walks away from a bunch of dead bodies, or even like halfway through the trailer where the narrator's like, we're scared of you. And these like odd, like arcane magic powers that you have. Like this sounds awesome. For me, like I actually don't hope it's too much bigger than the Outer Worlds, because the Outer Worlds was like a nice like 15 to 20 hour RPG that I could actually finish as an adult with, a full-time job. So I hope it doesn't push past like 50 hours. yeah, I'm so stoked. Like there was this cool bear with like this weird like fungal growth all across its back. Like the design was awesome. I think some of the like the gameplay moments were a bit choppy. Like I'm not sure that the trailer performed like to the degree that they'd want it to. But it's one of those things like I don't even care. Like I have complete faith in this studio to actually knock it out of the park. So yeah, I'm stoked for them.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, you stumbled on one of mine there. So Shane, why don't you hit us with something else from yours?
Oh yeah, cool. For me, it's I think it's South of Midnight as well. All of mine are going to be first party, just because like I am. Again, this harkens back to my original point talking about like why I love Xbox, and that is like this is like a third person action game that's like at least they described on the Xbox blog after the fact, wide linear. So it seems like you're going to have some freedom, but still be on like a linear story path, which I to my liking, the game that's done that best in at least in relatively recent times is Rise of the Tomb Raider. We get these awesome open hub areas where it's not necessarily open world, but you're somewhat funneled, but you still feel like you have freedom. And like it's all around like weird supernatural like deep South America in like this awesome claymation art style. I'm like, there is no game like this that I can think of. Like, give me this. This sounds amazing. I just love that we're getting something completely otherworldly compared to what Xbox and like a lot of other publishers have done in the past. So it's kind of it's just ticking that box of like, this is new. I didn't know I want this. Now I want this.
Yeah,
because it sounds awesome, and it seems like this is the project that Compulsion really, really wanted to do, and maybe they just didn't have the budget to in the past. So yeah, I can't wait for this game. Shame it didn't get a window, but look, there's plenty of other stuff to play in the meantime. Take your time.
Totally, and yeah, hearing you describe it like that in terms of like the claymation and how it is fairly unique, it reminds me of hearing about Cuphead for the first time.
Oh yeah,
where it's such a singular style, such a cool idea, where the concept itself is sort of enough to just greenlight it and see what happens.
And like I think We Happy Few was an interesting project for them because I don't know if it really hit for them in the way that they really wanted to. I remember their initial trailers were really exciting, and then as we got more and more information about what the game was going to be like, it sort of put some people off a little bit, and then I think it launched into early access initially, and it was just a bit
really quickly too.
Yeah. And
really early.
And so, but
it's stylish though, right? Like it just had such a cool idea.
The first trailers of We Happy Few, I still remember as like, these were really exciting trailers with a really unique looking world and story and all that stuff. And then seeing them come out with another one is exciting, because I think that they would have learned a lot of lessons from We Happy Few. And again, now being owned by Xbox, they'll be able to have that budget to really like I think the only reason they're showing this game now is because they're ready to actually start showing things, as opposed to we're working on this thing and we're going to sort of work on it for a long time. Like We Happy Few came out quite a while ago, so it was
2018. Yeah,
I'm really hoping that this one comes out swinging. And yeah, like the Southern Gothic aesthetic is just, I love that shit so much. I want, like I almost put, oh wait, no, that's Summer Games Fest is the thing that I was just about to spoil. But yeah, we'll get there.
I'm thinking of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
But yeah, having it reminds me of Control, right? Where having something supernatural but set in the real world, like in real places, like is so fascinating. It's the same appeal you get with like The Last of Us as well, where it's like, oh, this is what Pittsburgh would look like, etc. So yeah, it's it is fun. That's the kind of cinematic trailer where I look at it and I'm like, yeah, cool concept. I'll see you in 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
That's the one where I'm like, all right, we'll check in later. And then what else? Yeah, Jeremy. I guess we come around to your third.
Yeah. This will be my third. Still Wakes the Deep. The latest game from the Chinese Room.
Yes.
The developers of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. This trailer, like it did two things for me that immediately went like, okay, sick. I'm gonna be here and for you, like day one, which is the Chinese room, they made Amnesia Machine for Pigs. What this reminded me of was Soma, and Soma fucking rules, and this looks like it rules as well, because the setting of it is in this like oil rig in the middle of the ocean, and it looks scary, and they've said that it will be a narrative horror title, which is just complete like green flags for me to go like, yep, I think I'm going to be really into this one when it comes around. They also gave a tighter window, which is early 2024, which is really exciting, because we're not going to have to wait too long for it. I think it's just a really awesome looking game. We saw a lot of the first person gameplay in it, which is cool. And yeah, I don't know, just like they make such interesting games that I sort of always want to at least give them all a go, because they're always going to give me something that I haven't really experienced before in a lot of these spaces, because they really love to hone in on a specific idea or a specific setting and just explore that to the nth degree and get the most out of it. So I'm really excited for this. Still Wakes the Deep looks so cool.
Yeah, that's one I need to see the trailer for again, because that one kind of washed over me. I might have been between things that hooked me a bit more intensely, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, seeing what is next from the Chinese room, and what I do remember from that trailer is they had great water tech in that opening.
Yep.
It looked stunning.
Yeah, you know it did a good job, because like when it completely scares me off because I don't like horror, and I could tell this is a game I'm never playing.
Yep.
It's like, yep, bravo trailer. I will never play you.
Every time we come around to October, Jeremy makes me play something else scary.
Yeah. I've been trying to push Kerry into playing more and more horror games when Halloween comes around, because it's just an easy excuse.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, you've been enjoying them, Kerry.
I have been. It's been nice getting my feet wet with Resident Evil, and I did really like Soma, even although it was absolutely horrendous. Yeah. I'll just come in with my last one here, which for me was Clockwork Revolution. What a fascinating concept that they showed so much of at once. That sort of, it was like a very BioShock Infinite style, but also quite singular. It wasn't ripping it off wholesale, despite how similar it was. It definitely felt like it had its own identity within this. But yeah, In Exile is one of their newer studios, right?
I was picked up 2018, I want to say, at the same time as Obsidian.
That's right, and they're the developers of Wasteland, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, they're not. It's not like the Coalition, where they were created for Xbox.
No, yeah, this is like the old guard from Interplay, like the original creators of Fallout. They all split and went, kind of Obsidian. Bethesda.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's fascinating seeing them branching out of the tactics arena, which is what they were going for with Wasteland for a good number of years. But yeah, the style on this one is just 10 out of 10. Like you can't go wrong.
I've got some interesting bullet points here on the Xbox Wire blog post specifically about the game. A new time-traveling first-person action RPG. Explore the Victorian-era metropolis of Avalon, where key moments of its history have been secretly altered to bring wealth and power to the elite. The game pushes role-playing reactivity to new heights, where changes you make in the past can butterfly out to extraordinary and sometimes unexpected outcomes. So yeah, it's going to play with time and it'd still be a first-person action RPG. I haven't played Wasteland, but by all accounts, it's a phenomenal role-playing game. Many say it's one of the best of the last generation. I would like to get around to it because, I think the In Exile is like Compulsion, I think one of Xbox's dark horses in their first-party roster for sure.
And it's funny returning to this like sort of Sky City, steampunk, old-timey, futuristic vibe. Like it is just amazing. This is so funny. Looking at Clockwork Revolution, on the Xbox channel on YouTube, they even have it listed. You know how they have to choose a game for it. They even have the game chosen for it as BioShock Infinite. Like
that is like talking to you, that they do that is detected by an algorithm. That's not anyone actually choosing that. Because I did notice that, and I saw Dave Oshry on Twitter, who is the head of New Blood. When like he makes all of those old school first person shooters. Apparently, frequently the game that gets chosen for his modern old school first person shooters is the original Quake that just gets attached to his game trailers.
Oh, that's funny.
AI's not so smart, hey?
No, it's not at all.
That's BioShock.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And like, look, to be fair, I thought it was BioShock for the first minute, and I was terrified because I was like, oh god, I don't want to have to go through this discourse again about BioShock Infinite. But like, I'm excited to see more games playing in that like physical space of steampunk, that sort of thing. We don't get those. We don't get many games in that area, especially not ones with a budget maybe as big as this. So it'll be cool to see some more takes on that genre.
And it's also another sort of a Back to the Future time travel story. I feel like we haven't had in a while. We've had time loops, right? We've had like Wolfenstein, where it's like a different reality sort of time frame, or
alternate history.
Yeah, exactly. But this is sort of playing with that classic, go back in time, change things, go back forward. Oh no, what have I done? Everything's wrong. Like, that's such a good arena to play in. And for a long time it was tired, so I get it why we haven't seen it for a while. This feels like such an imaginative way that they're doing the setting, the way the sort of the leader of the area, the sort of the seeming oppressor lady of this place was sort of talking to the character, talking to us through the trailer was quite engrossing, was very engaging. They did a great job of getting me excited for this, for something that I had no idea what it was before the trailer started.
Yeah, I think that's the point I was going to make, is the VO, the narration. It was compelling. I'm hopeful that we get a really interesting villain that's driving us through this narrative, this RPG.
And then Shane, what's your last pick here?
I'm tossing. Clockwork was it, but I was already thinking about, before you said that, about just picking. There's a couple of points. Like, one, I'll quickly just say Towerborn, the game from Stoic Studios. I love Stoic Studios. I think the Banner Saga is exceptionally underappreciated trilogy. I just love that Xbox Game Studios Publishing is working with these smaller developers on like other little projects that kind of just fill out the roster and provide something new. Like As Dusk Falls, not my type of game, but I think for those people who like those narrative adventures, that was really good.
Yeah, they really liked it, apparently. The people who liked it. And
for me, it's a shame these leaked beforehand, but Persona 3 Reload, Persona 5 Tactica, and also
new one
Atlas's new game, which I'm just trying to find the name of.
Yes.
Is it Metaphor? Is it Metaphor?
It is Metaphor,
yes. Metaphor Revolution or something,
Metaphor Refantasio, which is 2024 apparently. I think going back to the original point we spoke about, how Halo, Gears, and Call of Duty weren't here. If you take out Fable and Forza out of this presentation and you showed it to someone without any of the Xbox logos, I'm not 10 years ago, you'd never pick this as an Xbox showcase.
No,
it's unrecognizable.
Because you've got Ubisoft Star Wars in there.
Yeah.
You've got
all
this
these
game.
indie games like Persona 3. You've got that new Capcom IP.
Like a Dragon.
Path of the Goddess. Like a Dragon. Like Persona. Yeah, it was just So anyway, not to dwell too much on that point, but I think it is fantastic. Xbox fan base has been giving Xbox the feedback, we want more Japanese games. Why don't we have Persona? What's this relationship with Sega like? And for the remake of Persona 3, a spin-off of P5, and the new IP from Atlas to rock up on Xbox's stage, I think it's just they are putting in the hard yards and really listening and giving that feedback.
Well, they're not just on stage. I'll point out they're also on Game Pass.
Right? Yeah, huge, absolutely massive. So it actually gives me hope that. So I remember when, what was it? I think it was way back in the 360 era. I remember Peter Moore saying there were 3 franchises that the team at the time were they're this generation, we need to get these franchises on Xbox, and they weren't previously. It was Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, and Devil May Cry. I think those were the 3 big third-party exclusives that PlayStation had, and they did that. They got those games by the end of the generation. So yeah, like kudos to them then, and kudos to them now. It seems like they're doing the hard yards. Whether they'll, imagine like, manage to get Square Enix back on board in some meaningful capacity, I'm not sure. But look, they're doing it with Sega. They seem to be doing it well with like Koei Tecmo and Bandai Namco as well. So I just want to point to those 3 like together as a cluster as like a good sign that they really care about the Japanese market still. So
and they really must have fostered a strong relationship with Atlas.
Well, and Sega, right? Because you had all the Yakuza games as well, right? Back in the day, like dropping in Game Pass, and then Like a Dragon is like a Xbox launch title for the series consoles. So yeah,
it's interesting as well, because I remember like there were rumors floating around prior to the announcement the announcement of the intention to buy Activision Blizzard King was like, are Xbox going to acquire Sega? Because there was just that really close relationship that they've been fostering for quite a long time, that I think if it doesn't go through, I know that like as we are recording this, there's another hearing happening in the English whatever about Activision Blizzard King. But I can actually see them looking to Sega to acquire them if the Activision Blizzard King acquisition doesn't go through. And
I agree.
And like it reminds me like way back when they said that they really wanted to get Final Fantasy on the Xbox console, and they did end up doing it with Final Fantasy 13.
Or Xbox.
I know, and that was like, I remember because like they swung for that in both directions, because they also, remember the game Lost Odyssey? that was meant to be their Final Fantasy that was only going to be on Xbox, and that game is on like 4 discs, and my understanding is that it's interesting and not great, which is unfortunate for them, but like that was going to be their, like, we've got like the people that made Final Fantasy, we've got them working on a game just for us. And so you
have to credit the effort as well, okay, if you want to get your own Final Fantasy, let's go to the creator of Final Fantasy, get him to make 2 RPGs in Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon.
Yes.
I 100% agree with you on the Sega point, Jez. Like, if ABK doesn't go through, I think they will go for Sega. The future of Japanese games market is mobile. Like, that's just, it's set in stone at this point.
Sure.
And so if Atlas wants to reach, the Persona 5 fan base, like a lot of them, at least in the East, are going to be on mobile as well, and they're going to do that via the cloud. So I can see that happening for sure.
So yeah, that sort of sums us up. At the end of the day, I do think this was a fantastic conference. I enjoyed last year's conference as well. Before those games didn't hit their bar that they set.
At the time, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Exactly. I did leave this one feeling like we still have a lot of future promises and not too much immediate future, near future stuff. It's like Forza's coming in October. I was like, okay. And like Persona's coming, but yeah, it was leaked. That's not their fault, and that is exciting, but it will be on other stuff too. So I am excited for their future, more so than I have been before. But if it weren't for Starfield, I would probably have not, the needle for my opinion on where Xbox is headed would not have shifted with this conference for me.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm just glad we got gameplay and at least the glimpse at like, okay, we're getting close, right? Like Fable isn't too far off. It's good to know that Compulsion and In Exile, their projects have been revealed, and so they're probably closer than maybe we originally anticipated. I think it's just, it sucks that like, we still haven't seen like State of Decay 3 or Perfect Dark. There's no sign of Gears. What's happening with Halo? There's a lot of question marks. And actually looking ahead to 2024, like officially, it's actually looking pretty sparse. Like we know Hellblade, Avowed, and Towerborn right now in official like first party capacity, and that's it. They've said, Mapu's noted like they can see the the one game a quarter like on the horizon. So
yeah.
And I think Phil noted at the end of this showcase as well that like there is more in 2024 that they haven't revealed. So
that's it.
I think we'll probably maybe you get the Gears collection next year and maybe a couple of other little surprises like a Hi-Fi Rush equivalent. Or maybe they're just like, Indiana Jones might be ready for next year and they just don't want to show it yet. Maybe it's a Game Awards reveal.
They do have the flight sim as well, which is
the flight sim update.
I'm assuming that's a 2024 game considering it's in the name. I didn't actually check the release date, but if
I hope so. Yeah.
If they didn't, that would be strange. But I think that they're going to start counting some of those as well, which is again, they're not the most widespread releases, which I think is maybe one of the biggest differences between PlayStation and Xbox at the moment is that Sony are releasing games trying to capture the
mass appeal.
Yeah, the mass appeal, the everybody the game everybody is talking about is what we want. And Xbox every time. And Xbox is we're going to make, the best fucking flight simulator that anyone has ever laid their hands on, and this group of people are going to fucking love it, and anyone else is probably not even going to touch it. But they are going for different things, which I think is 100%. Really fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's so true for so many of their games. We just spoke about Wasteland 3, right? I reckon there's a hardcore RPG audience who just adore that game and are probably still playing it to this day. Yeah. I think Ori is vastly underappreciated. It feels like those games come and go, and those are easily Game of the Year contenders in my mind. Some of the best Metroidvanias we've ever seen.
Even
Hellblade, even though it's a third-person action game, it's it's going to be dark and not mass appeal because it's about psychosis and mental health, and a lot of people just won't be interested in that. They want to go fight robot dinosaurs in Horizon instead.
Yep.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll throw it to a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk Starfield, and then whatever time we have left, we'll squeeze Summer Game Fest into, because we are being classic Minimap here and going long, but I'm having a great time. So stick around. We'll be back briefly right after this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the MiniMapCast. We've spent that entire break talking about Halo, and it was excellent. Mm-hmm. That's really the long and short of it. It was great. We opened a can of worms and we reminisced.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be dangerous. I'm like, okay, how much time we got?
Yeah. So what have we got to talk about in the second half? The thing that elevated the Xbox showcase for me the most was the entire second half of it. Starfield for 45 minutes. The new game from Bethesda Game Studios, the people who made Skyrim, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76. What a showcase. Not even the Xbox showcase, but what a focused game showcase. I don't think I've been so engaged by such a long deep dive since Fallout 4's reveal in 2015.
Yeah, and that worries me because I was so into that game, and then I definitely wasn't after I played it for a little bit. This looks way more I'm more into this than I was into Fallout 4 when it was first shown.
Yep.
There's a lot more here that I think will go right, I think. There's a lot of things that are really exciting about this game, and they are really, really kind of swinging for something that they haven't been in that space in a long time. The phrase that they've said over and over again is that we haven't made a new world in 20 or 25 years or whatever they said. That actually really carries some weight for them, because there's a reason that they haven't done that, and it's because the two they have are so strong and are so versatile, and they can continue to expand on it over and over again. There will always
and also
be...
their entries are so strong. They have given us very strong foundational pillars of the industry with these entries in these franchises.
And they will always find a new region in the Elder Scrolls canon to visit. They will always find a new city in America to visit in Fallout. But them deciding actually, no, we want to do a different thing altogether. We want to do this grand science fiction like adventure story is really exciting, just because it's not gonna have this baggage of franchises that we know and have experienced for decades.
Like,
now.
Which vault am I gonna wake up in this time?
Exactly. Yeah. Shane, what did you?
Shane, how did you feel about the Starfield presentation?
Yeah, I was kind of blown away. I'm not a Fallout fan. I love Elder Scrolls though. Fallout for me is just gross. Like, I don't want to be in this world.
Totally fair.
Yeah, I'm like, this is all disgusting and brown and grey, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But give me fantasy like Skyrim. I adore Skyrim, and what I adore about Skyrim is just like the care that is taken in every aspect of its presentation. Like it, it's almost 12 years ago that the game launched.
Yeah.
But I can still remember just the wonder of like your skill tree being the constellation of, the stars in the sky. I'm like, who thinks of that? That is brilliant. And just the environmental storytelling, you'd walk into this cave and there'd be a hole in the cave ceiling so light would pass through, which means plant growth was able to happen. So it's like, it's beautiful, and there's like a babbling brook, and that means animals are attracted. And like, it's just, it was at the time world building on a completely new level that we'd never really seen before, other than I would say probably Mass Effect. And the idea that, okay, this team that delivered that type of experience is now doing that again, but it's 1,000 planets. At first was like, oh, I don't know. When they mentioned that, I think last year, I was like, this is kind of scary. Like, how good are those 1,000 planets going to be? But just the depth of the systems that they showed across, 45 minutes. I couldn't believe it. When they cut in halfway and they're just like, okay, guys, we're going to take a break to announce some accessories.
Yeah.
And we're back. It was like, let's pick up steam again.
Totally. They did that. And I was like, don't stop yet. I want you to keep telling me more about this game.
Yeah. I caught up on Kind of Funny's live reaction as well. Funnily enough, they didn't actually react to it live because they got stuck on a plane coming back from Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, so
that's how I watched it.
They watched it delayed. And they got to the end of it, and it's like, I think it was Tim that was like, okay, guys, now we're going to react to the Xbox showcase and Starfield. And I think Andy was just like, oh, that's right. Yeah, the Xbox showcase, that happened too.
Yeah.
Like, completely absorbed by Starfield. And I felt the same way. Like, I'm so on board for this. I'm almost thankful that there aren't too many other games in like the latter quarter of the year that I'm very interested in, because it's just going to give me more time with this game, because we're going to need it. And I think for me, what also impressed me is like the stuff that should never have been in doubt, right? It's like, it's the depth of the factions and the storylines and how they run so deep, and how the background that you pick, the one of 20 background profiles or whatever, will have an influence on this particular faction or what have you. It really does feel like a how are they doing this? How is this even possible? How is this going to run on the Xbox Series S for once? Like, later it came out that it's 1440p 30.
Yeah.
And even that, I'm just like, 1440p. I mean, bravo. Like, here I was thinking it was going to be 720 or something, just because how ambitious it was.
Last of Us resolution on PS3.
Yeah, pretty much. I was completely blown away. I think they did exactly what they needed to do with this showcase of Starfield. It's just like silence the critics from all corners of the internet that I'm looking at. Everyone is so pumped for this game.
I still have one or two little things that I am a little bit worried about. Like the 1,000 planets still scares me, because like they're not all hand made, because you can't do that. That is not a task that is possible.
This game already took 5, 6, 7, 8 years to make.
Yeah. And
with procedural.
Yes. And so like, I am curious about how much of it is going to feel not repetitive, but like there was a level of like mines in Skyrim, for example, being having those really cool moments of like there's light coming down, so vegetation grows and animals and etc. But like some of them did feel kind of samey in that regard, where there was always a hidden door, and there was always a latch on the other side of that door that you'd wrap around, open, and it'll take you to the beginning. And that was like, that's like an overall good decision to make in your dungeon design, because you finish the dungeon and they want to just send you back out to the world again. That's a good decision. But there was a commonality between a lot of them that was a bit, it was looking at a seam, right? Which is not the worst thing in the world. But when you've got 1,000 planets, like I don't know the size and scale of these planets. Are these, I'm assuming they're not No Man's Sky level planets, but are they, are they the size of a very large? Like I have no idea how big they are. I have absolutely no sense of scale for this game, which is worrying me, but also exciting me, because one of the things that I love the most about science fiction games and just games set in space in general that you can move around in is feeling like I'm discovering something. Like this is no one has found this but me, or I am experiencing this tiny aspect of this little world before anyone else has, and I get to share that intimate moment with whatever I'm discovering. I really hope the game can capture that, and I think with how the tone of the science fiction that this game is trying to like convey, I think will allow that. It's not Star Wars. It is also not really Star Trek either. It is in this like frontier-esque era of science fiction, of like, great expanse, I guess, with some history, of course. But I really do hope that I feel like I am able to be an explorer. Which
I think it's gonna. Sorry.
No, I just I want to feel like I am going out and seeing new things for the first time, that if not people in this game have never seen, but maybe even people who are also playing the game the same time as me and have not seen before, because it is so wide but worth seeing.
Yeah, I think the mission of Constellation, right? Like that main organization or body or team that you're joining is like advancing humanity, and for me, like, I think that's going to be that main driver. It's just like, what does it mean for humanity to breach space?
Yeah.
And you see like these different factions being created because of that. And it's also telling because, at least from what we've seen, you're not interacting with any like other intelligent life. Like there aren't, species of aliens that you're communicating with, like Mass Effect sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be like core to the story for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was absolutely fascinating, and you reminded me of something there when you were talking about how well you're going to be able to explore and do something. At the same time, you're right as well, Shane, that they are doing so many systems. Like we're talking about excellent like on foot exploration. We're talking about like cataloging of species and flora and fauna. We're talking about combat. We're talking about like exploration of man-made and natural like places. Then we're talking about creating your own outposts and changing your ship, changing the way it lays out, even in the center, what rooms are in it, and what combat capacity it has, how much cargo capacity it can carry. Are you going to become a freighter and engage with trade when you're in space? Do you run away from fights, or do you become a pirate and try to take people down, or do you engage with all of the red there was some faction that was red something. Do you take all of them out and do you become like a combat pilot, or do you fly to these luxury cruises or the space stations, or is it about discovering the cities on these planets? Like there are so many different ways that you could lose an afternoon. And I was talking about it with some friends in our Discord that we have, and I was talking about how it reminded me of Tears of the Kingdom, how I can accidentally lose 4 hours in just one aspect of that game. Yeah. And then when I come back, if I'm tired of being in the depths or whatever, it's like, great, time to go see some Sky Islands that I haven't seen before. And that's a completely different feel inside of this game that I'm already in, while contributing to the same progress. And then, I can go do the story. I can go find a dungeon. I can go onto the mainland. I can go see a village that I knew from the first game. Like it's that ability to, if all of those things hit in some way, if they're all engaging, and even if only 75% of them are engaging, maybe I don't want to build an outpost ever. There's still going to be so many things for me to do. I could be on foot. I can be in the ship. I can build a ship. I can do the story. I'm very excited for the possibility of all of those things landing. For my history with Bethesda games, with Fallout 4, 3, and Skyrim, I do really like them, and I play all of them for at least a few dozen hours. But I'm such a tick box open world person, almost to a fault, where I will play the game so much doing so many things that aren't important that I burn out before I get more than 25% of the way through the story. So I hope to be a little bit more disciplined coming into this one, experience a bit more of that sort of authored content that I really have absolutely nearly zero knowledge of in terms of their past catalog, and see everything that they have to offer before I check out.
It sounds like you and I are very similar, Kerry, in the sense that I've put in 40 hours into The Witcher 3 twice.
Yes,
and every single time it's when I get to is it Skellige? And I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. Like I put too many hours into that first section. I'm like, I can't do this section of the open world again.
It's literally exactly what happened to me. I made it 80 because I did the second area on the mainland, Novigrad, with like Triss.
Yeah.
And then made it to Skellige, and it's a whole new place, and I fall off cliffs and like, I'll get back to this later.
Yeah.
Never. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Is there one thing that we're like, what is your plan for Starfield before we move over to Summer Game Fest? What kind of space person are you going to be? Because I'm going to be the biggest fucking ship creating fiend, little goblin man of just making... Yes, I'm going to make so many horrendous looking and awesome looking spaceships.
It was funny they showed that off where they were like, you can create a thing that looks like a transformer or a platypus. It's like, okay, cool.
I'm gonna make so many of those like obscenities of space vehicles that I can. That is my thing. I'm gonna be a ship maker.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos's rocket.
I'm such a vanilla player sometimes. Like in my mind, I'm just like, oh, I just want to make the Milano, like from Guardians. Like someone make that for me, so I can get the blueprint and do that. And it's going to be like, you know, really good at combat, but still like really maneuverable. And when I think about the game, like here's exactly how I'm going to play it. I'm going to spend way too much time on one base on one planet out of 1,000, and then immediately like go to another system and completely forget about that outpost that and I'll just like completely abandon it. And my poor companions will be there being like, I'll visit 50 years later and be like, I have 1 million iron for you, sir. I'm like, I don't need it anymore. You mean nothing to me. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things like Skyrim did such a great job of this as well. Like the factions felt so rich with history and like, you just like, they could be games unto themselves. Like, you know, just like, being like, you know, joining the Mages Guild or whatever, and interacting with those characters. So I'm excited to have that again, but just in an entirely new setting. It's kind of mind blowing. Like I was already like, oh yeah, Starfield, let's go. I'm keen for it. But now I'm just like, give it to me now. I need this game.
Yep. Yeah. For me, I had the thought while we were just talking then of like, how and it was along those lines, Shane, of like dedicating so much time to one thing on one planet. And I was thinking like, if I were to do this the way I normally do it, how could I do it in a way that I still remembered the individuality of the planets? Because I feel like if I just did this in the checkbox way, where it's like, okay, I see an outpost there, scan all the trees, scan all the animals. All right, next thing. And I was thinking like, how could I do that in a way that felt like organic but also memorable? And I had the briefest idea, and it's such a commitment. I was like, oh, how would this is sort of the most inclined naturally I've been towards role-playing like ever. And I was like, oh, what would an actual explorer do? Well, they'd be there, they'd be writing notes. They'd probably spend time in each area as they were writing notes, looking out at the field and looking at the new creature they discovered, writing it down, and go in there like Planet Ublon page, and they'd figure that out, and then they'd move on. But because they dedicated that sort of study to it. It wasn't just a open world checkbox. You know, it could be more memorable in that way. And then I thought to myself, do I buy a Starfield notepad and survey the galaxy?
Please do that, because that is some of the most fun I've ever had in games, is when I have inhabited a character that is so far away from me. Like the time I went through like a good chunk of Red Dead Redemption when I first played it on PS4 with a coin in my hand, and I two-faced my way all the way across like one of the chapters of that game because I wanted to see what it would be like if I was just two-faced chaotic, flip a coin to see if this person lives or dies.
Amazing.
Such a fucking psycho in that game.
It's so fun to see how the game rewards you for that stuff because I have such strong memories of that exact moment, and it was so fun. That really trying to pretend to be another type of person in these games. Like a lot of the time they do reward it in ways that you probably just wouldn't see some part of this system react in a different way otherwise. Like I finished Fallout New Vegas, I think about 3 different times, being different characters each time. I was completely like good in the traditional sense of the word in that game, completely evil, like full, like I'm gonna join the evil Roman bad guys, and one of them in the middle was like, I'm just gonna kind of like I'm gonna be selfish and see what that gets me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being all different types of spaceman in Starfield.
It's funny, actually. I watched half of an interview that Todd Howard did with Ryan McCaffrey like a day ago, and it went live as the Xbox conference finished. And Ryan asked a question about how, what did the team pull from these other sort of sci-fi games that you haven't been in the same field of, things like Mass Effect and things like No Man's Sky that I could see parallels to here. Mm-hmm. And Todd kind of danced around that a little bit. He was like, I don't know about those. Like, yes, you can see that, and you can see the DNA of our previous games there. But he said our focus is sort of about being in a world. And he likened that to Red Dead Redemption 2, about how that's like, it's about being in that world. And you can get captured by hillbillies and drugged and left in a ditch, and then you can decide to go back and get your revenge or hogtie them or whatever, like we did when I played with you in the couch at one time. Like, yeah. It was fascinating seeing them likening it to that, to make that comparison in regard, especially almost in contrast to the ones that Ryan made on the other end of the dialogue system that you get with Mass Effect in space, of the No Man's Sky exploration. I found that fascinating.
And I really hope that they have learned the lesson. And like, I believe they have, but like the lessons from Fallout 4, of allowing you to really sort of go off the deep end and give me many deep ends to go off. Because I think, and it's been said to death, but the inclusion of the voice protagonist in Fallout 4, I think was a misstep. Because it meant that they had
restrictive.
They had to funnel you in directions that you might not have necessarily wanted to go. So I am glad that that's not in this game, but I hope that they go further than that. They allow you to sort of be as many different types of people in this world.
That's a perfect example, and this happens all the time in the games industry, of careful what you wish for with a voice protagonist as well. Because
it was,
and
like that was such a selling point.
It's been a core criticism of so many games, right? Like Halo's one of them. Whereas sometimes maybe you don't want that. There's a reason why the designers do it this way.
It's fascinating because it's the only way I could come to the second game after Skyrim thinking that it's better that the main character isn't voiced, is by seeing them try it so wholeheartedly, and it just fundamentally altered a bit of the structure of the game in a way that was in the end detrimental. Like if you had told me 12 years ago, hey, the second one of these after this, like they made another one and this is the next one, and it's not voiced and everyone's happy about it, I'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think it's core to the true role-playing experience, right? Like even something like The Witcher 3, like a fantastic role-playing game, but you're not playing you're playing Geralt, right?
Yeah.
And that is completely different to deciding as a player, I'm going to be a space pirate that goes against Constellation and does its own thing, and I make ships shaped like platypus. You know what I mean? Like you can't.
And your voice could sound like whatever you want it to in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So fascinating. What a excellent showcase. For me, it was the
masterclass in like a single game direct.
Yeah, amazing. Exactly. And for me, it was the best part of the Xbox 2-hour block as well.
And so many people, I need to stress again, so many people that we got to see who are working on this game who are excited about it. That is what gets me excited about games, is seeing that the people, that's why I love going to PAX, because I get to talk to the people who make the games. Yeah. It's the most important part is recognizing that there are humans behind the game, but also there are human stories happening inside of these games. I'm so glad they decided to do it.
Have you guys watched Psych Odyssey, the Double Fine documentary?
Oh no, not yet.
I'm about 7 or 8 episodes in, and it is amazing.
Yeah,
like,
it's meaty,
Jeremy,
right? Like it's hours and hours. Yeah,
saw this documentary.
Yeah,
it's like 32 episodes. They're at least half-hour long each.
Wow,
it's incredible.
The amount of video game documentaries that I have in my backlog is like I really, really need to get around to watching these. Is very high.
The Xbox one they did for the 20th anniversary was amazing too.
I did love that one.
That was good.
That was a really, really good one.
Yep. All right, changing gears. Yeah. We've managed to talk about Starfield with enough time to squeeze in some Summer Game Fest discussion.
On to the opposite of developers talking about their games. Let's go to the Keeleys.
The Keeleys.
Let's go.
Gracious.
So Summer Game Fest happened, wow, it was a Thursday night for us, something like that, a few days ago. Yeah. Oh, sorry, final Starfield thing. I really like the watch, and I cannot justify buying it.
I got the controller.
It's so funny you said that. Like my marketing hat was on. The second I saw the watch in the game, I'm like, they better do a watch.
Yes,
the perfect merchandise opportunity or collector's edition opportunity.
Jeremy,
also, another quick shout out for me. I love the fact that the Rasco, that robot, can like say your name.
That's a cool thing.
As Captain Howard, I'm like, I feel sorry for all those people with the odd names that aren't gonna be able to do that. But anyway,
yeah, we'll see if mine's in there. It really is with things like that. Jeremy, you said you got the controller?
Yeah. I managed to get in before they sold out. I love those.
So good.
I like the design, and I love those transparent triggers. It looks dope.
It's easily one of the best special edition controller designs I've seen in I don't know how long. Like we worked in a game store over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, Jeremy. Well, not over the last 2 years, but recently enough that we saw the secondhand ones traded in and the re-releases of the others and the new ones when they came in, and this is so cool.
Yes,
I'm glad you bought it so I can hold it
by the world. Yeah.
Like
they could actually be in the world. So good.
And they did the same thing with the headphones, where all the details is like on the controller, it's got a grip here, like where you hold it on the handles, and the throttle on the analog stick, and the cam. It says like cam on the right analog stick. So it's so clever. So Summer Game Fest. We'll put Starfield to bed for now. We'll have plenty to say in September. Summer Game Fest was last week. I don't think it was as strong as the Xbox showcase. However, I do think it was one of Keeley's stronger press conferences in general out of the last, let's say, COVID era, especially as he's been doing more and more of them and sort of spreading himself a bit thinner. How did you both find this conference?
I agree that I would say, and maybe it peaks up and down here and there, but I would say the general trend line for both like opening night live at Gamescom, Game Awards, and the Summer Games kickoff is upwards. Like I feel like it's only getting steadily better. Like I really commend Jeff for how the Game Awards have evolved from, there was that weird time in like the mid-teen sort of like the 2014-15 era where you've got the cast of Jersey Shore up there presenting an award,
the Spike TV Game Awards.
But slowly and surely it's gotten to that point where like it's recognized now as a highly respected Game Awards show. Sure, it's a bit long in the tooth. Of course there are ads. You have to pay for this production somehow, so I'm not sure you can really criticize him for that. But yeah, I thought this was great. I thought it was I'm glad that there's like one showcase where all the other publishers can like sort of just like throw something in there, right? And we don't necessarily have to have like every year like a Konami showcase with like one good thing, or the same could be said for some of the other smaller publishers as well, like 505 Games doing their own thing, or Focus Entertainment doing their own thing, or Embrace Group. Let's all combine our energy to put it into one awesome thing, and you will capture more people's attention that way. So I commend him for it.
So Jeremy, you were a couple of days late to it because you were busy when it came out, but how did you find it?
I don't like it, but I think that's because I just don't like Jeff Keighley's shows.
I think that is accurate.
Yeah, I think that I think that he has such a large platform and uses it to just only appease whoever pays him money to put his trailers in his shows. And I think that it could be so much more. Like I think the same about the Game Awards as well. That I think that a lot of his shows are just like it was funny. I was going back and forth because I went back and I rewatched part of the Summer Game Fest showcase, whatever it's called, after the Xbox show, because I wanted to have like a 1-to-1 feeling between them, and like it just feels like I don't even know why this is a physical show, because it's just kind of him introducing the fucking games over and over again.
Well, I think I could tell you why, and it's clear on the joy on his face when there's people. He likes it. He prefers that format. Like he personally gets something out of it. And I don't think that's a problem with that. Necessarily a problem with that.
But I think I think it does, because I don't understand the format of this show if it's just because he enjoys doing it. Like, I know that, you know, if it's like, I'm not here to watch a show to appease Mr. Keeley. I'm here to watch a show to sort of get an understanding about what a game's going to come out, who's making these games, all that stuff. And it feels like such it feels like such a marketing driven show. And I know it is, because I know it all is, because that's what this industry is. But when I look at some of the games that were coming out from the Xbox showcase, you know, some of the smaller games from, or like smaller, like they're still big games, but you know, like games from like the Chinese Room, for example. Like, it feels like, hey, the media conglomerate that is the tech conglomerate that is Microsoft, their subsidiaries, Xbox, through line all the way to the Chinese Room, they are making a game that they really fucking are into making this game. And that is going to be really, really cool. Whereas then when I watch the Keeleys, it's like, hey, we've got all of these marketing beats that we need to hit. Here's the video form of the press releases we're going to send you 15 minutes after this person leaves the stage. I don't think that it's worth it. I think like they're not, it doesn't feel like a good show, in like, to me at least. It doesn't feel like an enjoyable presentation that is put together with a purpose and a point, aside from there's a vacuum here because the other guys have failed so catastrophically that we're not even sure if E3 is ever going to come back under the ESA. And Jeff has looked at what's left and went like, I can make something out of this. Without it feeling like any realistic celebration of this medium industry, whatever. Yeah. You know, like I think back to the style of show that Xbox have been doing for a very long time now, and the style of show that PlayStation used to host back when they had a stage and people on stage, and they used to do, you know, at times ridiculous things on stage, but for the most part, it felt like, like we're going to really set a tone here and make you feel like you are enjoying watching this show and are going to get something out of it that you will remember an E3 moment. And I don't have like E3 moments, which is a ridiculous thing to want, from Jeff Keighley, because he just feeds me trailers. He just feeds me trailers. Aside from the charisma machine that is Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Which did feel like an E3 moment, which was like, yeah, this guy rocked up and he fucking crushed it. He was all in on being excited to be the new Dead by Daylight character. He was thrilling and thrilled to be there.
And someone I was listening to talk about this mentioned the previous year getting Al Pacino on stage and how that was like
the Game Awards,
like cool, but like also like not good. Like he was actually kind of cool to be there. Like he was like, yeah, cool, I'm excited, but also like you're clearly out of your element, and that's fine. But like
that one felt like elder abuse. But like
he was free that night. I'm like, I'm just gonna take his talent fee and throw it all on red on the way home. I see what you mean, Jeremy. I think some of it might come down to the fact that with like, particularly with like the platform holders, right? Like they are curating a show that is delivering a vision for their platform, and by its very nature, Summer Games Fest can't do that. Like, there is no vision for what Jeff Keighley wants to deliver in terms of like a cohesive storytelling product, if you will. And you're right, it is just like what can I get? I'm going to talk to every single person I know in industry and say, hey, I've got this platform. I can reach this many people. Is that valuable to you? Give me what you can. And then he's going to pick what he can get. So, I don't think we're ever going to get anything more than just like a 2-hour compilation of trailers.
No, which I think is like, I think it's a shame because I think there is a way that can work, which is like there are other shows on the periphery which have a more focused like point of the entire show. Like PC gaming show, it's all about PC games. Like, granted, I didn't think their show this year was that great. There was a lot of really lame jokes that I think just kind of fell flat, and they accidentally fell into the trap of making fun of the thing that they were doing at that moment. There's the Wholesome Direct, and there's some other smaller shows like around the periphery, which I think do a better job of it being a more specific reason for the show to exist. And like Jeff is going to pick up everything else. But I think that because of course he wants to, because why would you not want to? But the platform that he's got, I think, could be used in a much more positive way that he's just happy not doing.
Yeah, there's definitely like an unreached potential vibe. Is like, oh, if it had been like this, or if they'd focused more on that. Like every year, there's always, or every conference, there's 3 a year now. But like, you know, every time there's a feeling of like, this could have been X. We could have done Y here. And I've just had a thought now thinking about it when you mentioned those smaller, more focused, independent conferences. Which have that focus, like a Wholesome Direct, like a PC Gaming Direct, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
The thing with Keeley's presentations is he is directly competing or directly going for the same level of gravitas, of appeal, of mass appeal to a wide audience, on scale with the large publishers like Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. EA maybe, you know, but like the thing with that is he isn't a big conglomeration. Those conferences work for those companies because it is marketing, because it helps them pay their things. And so for it to be worth it for everyone else to come along, it has to be neutral for it to be appealing to everyone else. He has to be appealing to everyone else, which means it has to be advertiser friendly. It has to be advertisable. There has to be ads in it to pay for it. It has to be integrated with Twitch, you know, all of these things, because he's aiming for that corporate hit level, that corporate marketing level of showcase on his own with a small team.
But he's also got the audience to be able to actually have some editorial capacity in those shows, because realistically, none of them are going to, none of the games that are not going to be in an Xbox showcase or a Nintendo Direct whenever they decide to do them and stuff, they're not going to have the same level of eyes that Jeff has like realistically grabbed and put together on his own by making this showcase. You know, he has the ability to direct it a bit more than I think that he actually is. You know, like Jeff Keighley, name a woman, first up, like not a single woman on stage for his entire showcase, which is just dreadful.
That's bad. Yeah.
But that is lower than the bar that needs to be hit. And there are things that he can do that can raise that bar. He's allowed to, he would be allowed to say something like, you know, I want everybody to bring a developer up and allow them to do the old school E3 thing of have a developer come in and introduce their game, right? Give them say, you've got 90 seconds to pitch your game, and you know, he could say,
get your most charismatic person on the team.
Totally. Like, get the lead who pitched it to the heads of the studio. Get someone who is there to have a mandate. 50% of the games need to have a live demo. It's I don't not necessarily something exactly like that, but give me a reason to go this is not holding, the publisher's feet to the fire, but at least give them a little bit of, let's put together a showcase that benefits everybody, not just pre-order now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also it's like he's playing to such a broad audience. So it's not even just console and PC games. So he's got mobile stuff in there as well. He's got you know game TV adaptations.
Yeah.
It's
MMOs.
like I think pick a lane maybe.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Summer Games Fest is where you go to see AAA bangers from third parties. You know, from like the leftovers, let's say. And yeah, you can go there knowing that maybe you're going to get something like from Square Enix or Capcom or Bandai or Focus Entertainment or 505 Games or Embracer Group. Like, because like there's no consistency, right? It's like, why do I tune into Summer Games Fest? Because maybe I'm getting a cool surprise. Maybe.
Yeah, because there'll be a movie star.
Into the Xbox showcase because I know that I'm going to see what's coming in my Game Pass subscription from first party for the next 12 months.
Yep.
Why do I tune into PlayStation? Because I know they're going to blow me away with some new single player game, except not this year. So like, yeah,
Spider-Man 2, hello.
Well, yeah, true. new. So yeah, I think there's just like, there's no reliable, consistent reason that we tune into Summer Games Fest right now.
And benefit of the doubt, because I'm like that. Like maybe he's just not like, for as far as he has come, maybe he's just still not in a position to be able to make any demands like that. Maybe too many people would walk and then he'd have nothing, you know? At the end of the day, he is beholden to everyone coming to the table for him to have something relevant to show people, for people to then get excited about it and then get excited about the next one. Like it's such a hard place to be in, that it is impressive that he has gotten this far.
Yeah,
and I don't know how we can realistically make it better. Sorry, go Shane.
Chicken and the egg situation right now, right? It's like, well, I've got this platform, it doesn't have the views, I need the content. It's like, well, we're not going to give you the content unless you have the views. Whereas now it's like the Game Awards is the complete opposite. Like it's been going for so long. It's, you know, it's now getting 100 million views. Since like the last couple of years, that's publishers are looking at that and like, we want our content at that show, so they will plan around that. So maybe this gets to that point at some stage, but fingers crossed.
Who knows? And any final point on the evaluation of the conference, Jeremy, before we get to the actual games?
No, just the same thing I say every year.
3 times a year.
Yeah, I know. The more showcases he has, the more opportunities I'm afforded to say, Jeff Keighley, please give me literally something of substance.
All right, so
he's never going to come on the MiniMapCast.
No, he's not. But you do. It's talking about putting the flame to their feet to the fire. Like that's what you do when anytime Jeff Keighley comes on, comes up. I would love to hear what everyone's top 3 things here were. I'm going to start with one that is brief, but sort of talks to a general sort of feeling I had for the show. One of my most excited things I had from this conference was the tiny crumb we got of extra Spider-Man 2 news from Brian Intihar on stage. We got that excellent artwork of Miles and Peter fighting Venom in the city, which was so cool. We got the excellent key art, which I'm just an absolute sucker for, and we got the date, which is just cool. This is not the only time I'll bring this up in my top 3, but why was this, in some very tangible ways, why was this Summer Game Fest a more exciting PlayStation showcase than the PlayStation showcase we had 2 weeks ago?
It's fascinating, isn't it? That it's fascinating that PlayStation are willing to hold off an announcement for 2 weeks or 3 weeks for Keighley's.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Like this show gets a fraction of the views that the PlayStation showcase does. Why they would hold that information for this? It's just like to hit a mildly different audience. Like, I think, I don't know, as a marketing PR person, I'm like, that's a poor decision in my mind. Yeah,
like and like again today, this is like a little bit off topic, but the very beginning of the Final Fantasy 16 showcase was introduced by the incoming CEO of Square Enix, where he talked about the very first time he played Final Fantasy, which is quite a nice story.
This is at an event they did, right? A launch party event or stream?
All of the above. Both. It was it was a very strange event. they had a quick cutaway to Jim Ryan where he thanked Square Enix for their ongoing support, and then they cut away from him. It was absolutely strange. But I do wonder if the reason Spider-Man and like last year, The Last of Us remastered, I do wonder if they throw these in there just to PlayStation hopes to just to extend their marketing cycle just a little bit longer. Just to sort of keep everybody's keep the name in the mouths of people just talking about video games in general, considering they are no longer really a part of this week.
That's 100% the reason. They just get another opportunity to be in the news cycle.
So it was fascinating. I didn't really nothing more to say than that. Love the art. Release date, great, cool. Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Shane?
One that jumped out at me, and I really want to commend this publisher, and that is Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden. This is a supernatural third-person action game from Don't Nod.
Mm-hmm.
I think Focus Entertainment
too.
It's Don't Nod as well. I'm like, good on Focus Entertainment, man. Like they're there with a Plague Tale. These are like high production, new IP.
Yep.
In a world where everyone's making safe bets. And I have to call it out. Like, I think I will, the end of the trailer says end of 2023. So we don't have an exact release date yet, but I'm so keen to support this game. And just as my way of, communicating, I really value what Focus Entertainment is doing. It looks like a cool idea too. It's like this, maybe a couple that's fighting supernatural beings. And it's just
but one of them's dead.
Yeah. You don't get games like this from many publishers, so bravo to Focus Entertainment. I think it looks really cool. Looking
also, just on that point of Don't Nod, so there's Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden, which you mentioned. Also, this week they just released Harmony: The Fall of Reverie, which soundtrack done by Lena Raine, which is cool. But also today they announced Jusant, which is that climbing game at the Xbox Showcase. That was them as well.
Look at my notes, which one was that was Don't Nod also? And that looks so cool, man. That was a vibe.
It looks so cool.
That was a vibe. Yeah.
It's been so fascinating to see how they've spun off from Life is Strange after Deck 9 came in and sort of did it so well, and they've done Vampire since then, and Tell Me Why, and so many, just three things in this next 6 months.
Where are they based? Are they France?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not sure where they are.
Because they kind of remind me of Asobo. French developer. Yeah.
Okay.
And Asobo is also French and just wildly versatile. Asobo will turn around and do Flight Sim, but also a Plague Tale.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. So that one jumps out at me. I'm really excited for Banishers.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
I'm gonna start off with the one that it was just a cinematic trailer, but John Carpenter's Toxic Commando.
That spoke to you.
Attaching John Carpenter's name to the front of a game is going to get me to at least keep tabs on it, because John Carpenter is for those who don't know, is a prolific director. Directed The Thing, directed the Escape from New York and LA movies. Has directed many wonderful movies from the 80s in particular. He's also a gigantic gamer,
easy.
And famously, people will ask him questions about the games that he's playing in things like Rolling Stone, and he's always got just for someone who's in his 70s or 80s.
I'm looking it up now. He was born in 1948, so he's 75.
Yeah, 75. Yeah. For someone who's of that age, of that generation, it is funny to see him say I love the new Horizon Forbidden West or whatever the hell. He plays video games, which is so funny to me.
There's a game that he called complete garbage not too long ago. I need to find out.
Yeah, I would love one day to do maybe a shorter MiniMapCast topic, which was just the gaming opinions of director John Carpenter. I think that would be so fucking fun.
This is also on the level of Whoopi Goldberg coming out and lambasting Blizzard for not bringing Diablo 4 onto Mac this last week.
Yeah. He's such a fascinating man, and for the most part has only been doing composing for the Halloween films, which is also the films that he first directed way back when. But he's still the composer on all of them, which is great because he loves doing that. And so, yeah, like attaching his name to like an 80s style inspired game called Toxic Commando, which immediately my mind goes to The Toxic Avenger, which was also like a weird science fiction film from the 80s. I don't know. It's going to be interesting just to see if I hope he's involved a lot is the thing. I really hope he's involved a lot and not just the name they put on the front of the box, which it might be. But I cannot be more curious about a John Carpenter video game.
Yeah, totally. I hope the studio they've got attached to it. Do you know who that was of your notes?
I have absolutely no idea.
That's all right. That's fine.
My interest began and ended with John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. That's fine. Like my point still stands. I hope whoever they've got attached to it can follow through, I guess, on the game to, you know, sort of differentiate itself from World War Z and Back 4 Blood and those sort of AA zombie experiences.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've got the hook of something like Friday the 13th gained.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they try and fish people in from there.
Real quick, I've just pulled up an AV article, an AV Club article, which they were talking to John Carpenter. This is a little while ago. This is from last year, but he said, like, first of all, what games have you been playing? And he says he got hooked on Fallout 76.
No way!
Yeah, right. I know. And then like later on, he says, I keep up with Borderlands and Horizon Forbidden West. I love that game. Fantastic. What a design. Mind blowing. He said, I have the time for Crash Bandicoot and Ratchet and Clank, stuff like that too. And they said, did you play the new one on the PS5? He says, yes, I loved it. The interviewer then says, have you tried Elden Ring? He says, no, it sounds like a role-playing game. What is it? And then, but he's,
that's so cool.
It's so funny. And then he's like, you know, they're talking about from the people who made Dark Souls, and then John Carpenter's like, do you recommend it? And then and so he can actually,
that's just a conversation.
I know, it's so fucking funny. So yeah, I'm excited that my favorite part is the interviewer saying, are you familiar with the name Hideo Kojima? And John Carpenter just going, yes. And it's like, have you met him? And he goes, I do know about Solid Snake. I know that about, he wrote me once. I think he wrote me in lieu of the company paying me money whatsoever, because Solid Snake is just a complete like ripoff of Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. So like there's so much funny lineage there. Apparently John Carpenter liked Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is funny. But he wasn't a fan of Assassin's Creed Origins, so I guess John Carpenter's got no taste. No, I'm kidding.
Yep.
So
by
fascinating.
The way, Toxic Commando, developed by Saber Interactive, published by Focus. So
Saber,
published by and developed by Saber.
Developed by Saber, published by Focus.
The ones that are not doing KOTOR remake anymore.
No, I thought I just thought that was Aspire.
No, it got handed over to Saber.
Oh, and it's been handed off again, has it?
I think that game is just dead at this point. I don't think that game is ever going to come out. Saber were involved in the KOTOR remake.
Well, I know Saber either own or are part of Aspire or something like that, or work with. So I think that's how that worked. But yeah, okay, fascinating to see a new game from Saber that isn't KOTOR.
Apparently, it says that Saber Interactive will complete the KOTOR remake as of August of last year. But
yeah, when that like shakeup was new.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll see how it goes.
If that's how recent that shakeup was, we're just far too early to know anything about it.
Yeah, realistically, yeah.
Next thing on my list, and I think you're alluding to this being on your list too, Jeremy, was Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2. It looks good.
And Shane, listening to you before, this sort of touching on that more horror vibe than anything else, I imagine it's probably not on your list.
I want to play this game.
Yeah.
Because it looks so good.
It does.
And the first Alan Wake wasn't survival horror, right? Like it was
That's right.
Like more psychological, a bit creepy. So I did dabble in it. I never finished it. And loved what it was doing. Like the ideas for that game was just like so great at the time, like a 2010 title.
Mm-hmm.
It was like actually really ahead of its time. Yeah. So I love that this one looks amazing. Like I'm stoked for survival horror fans, but I will watch from afar as they enjoy it.
Yes. I couldn't help but look at this game and see such a distinctive influence of the Resident Evil remakes from the last 4 or 5 years at this point. And like, what a great well to pull from, really. I mean, if you've made the decision to differentiate what Alan Wake is after leaving it alone for so long, after it only had the one game and the expand alone, and to turn it into something else, they've pulled from an excellent source of inspiration to go from. I hope it isn't. On the one hand, I hope it isn't too similar, but if it is, we'll just be getting something excellent. So, like, it's hard to complain there.
I also don't think it'll be that. Like, I think like there will be similarities, but I also think they are also definitely pulling from Control. Like they have learned so many lessons from Control, which is great because Control fucking rules. That are then going to just be put directly into this game. I am so thrilled to see. I'm so thrilled that they're actually going to go back to something that they've wanted to work on for such a long time, right? Like Remedy, like they can make such incredible games, and Control was a thing that they obviously definitely wanted to make and really, really swung for it when they did. But you can tell that Control needed to be a mainstream hit. Control needed to be a game that got that was spoken about at the end of the year when it came to Game of the Year. It needed to be a game that could go across and, maybe get some post-release support that it did with the DLC. It needed to hit on a commercial level, not just a critical level. And the first Alan Wake, I think, was like, it was a smaller game, but like...
It was also console exclusive, I think.
It came to PC as well. But like...
Yeah, console.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, totally. But I think that them being able to say like, yes, we're going to go back to Alan Wake, the thing that we really fucking love, because we really want to make something that we really fucking love, is really exciting.
Sorry,
you go, Shane. No,
I was going to say your point earlier about Resident Evil. It's great. Like that, it is the perfect example of a rising tide lifts all boats, in the sense that Remedy are invigorated to give this franchise another shot based on the success of another publisher who's come along and almost single-handedly revived the survival horror genre themselves. It's like, oh wow, look at the success that RE2, 3, and 4 are enjoying. Now is the time for us to go back to this franchise. So, I mean, good on Capcom for showing that to Remedy, and then also recently EA to say, hey, it is worth remaking Dead Space at this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited to see more of that. Did we get a date for that? It's this year, isn't it?
October something? 10? 20 something?
17th.
I gotta finish that first.
Three days before Spider-Man 2.
Oof.
And 1 week after something else that was announced today that I don't remember. There was Forza.
October's looking packed.
It is.
Yeah, October 10 is Forza. Yeah, that's it.
And that's coming a month after Starfield.
Yeah.
Mirage is in there somewhere as well.
Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Oh
no.
Yep. It's not on my list. Let me see if I can snipe this one. Did either of you have the Prince of Persia game that they announced at the front of the show?
Yep. That game looks awesome.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
I don't know why there was like, I just like scrolling Facebook today, I saw like a bunch of like angry reacts to like the trailer being posted, and I'm like, who doesn't like this? This looks sick.
Is it maybe people who want the Sands of Time remake that's continually being dangled in front of them? Or
yeah, I'm like, this looks awesome. Like more creative, different, fun little experiences, please, from every publisher. It doesn't just have to be Ubisoft. Yeah. What a cool way to revive a franchise. Yeah. I
was absolutely stunned by the direction they're going with it, because it seems like such a good idea. Like Metroidvania, back to 2D, but like reinvented, but also honoring that style, but also kind of pulling in like abilities and combat moves and things from the Sands of Time 3D era of Prince of Persia games. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And also, why was it here?
I know. Yeah, I know. It was funny, wasn't it? And just going off of that, like I've spoken about it before, but I recently finished Metroid Dread for the first time, and that was great because that was Nintendo sort of going like, all right, like let's make another Metroid game for the first time in a hot minute, and learn every lesson we've made from previous Metroid games, but also just every other Metroidvania that has come out in the past 8 years. This Prince of Persia game looks like it's also going to be learning the lessons that Hollow Knight has taught us, that that Castlevania, not Castlevania game also taught us as well. Metroid Dread, I'm sure, is probably going to be part of the inspiration of it as well. I'm excited for just the next one of these really good games in this genre.
Yeah. I really like it when Ubisoft does these smaller things. I think almost everyone does when they do, like Valiant Hearts, A Child of Light. I know there are other ones in there that I'm forgetting, but those are the
Rayman games. They're a bit bigger. But
exactly. The 2D Rayman games.
This game is from the developers of Rayman Origins.
Yes.
Which is that is the seal of approval that I need.
Is this Montpellier?
I believe so. Let me double check.
I have heard that before. Yes, that it is that studio.
Because I'm convinced Beyond Good and Evil 2 is never coming out. I
think
that game's vaporware. I thought that even when I worked there. I was
not enough people did the hit record GGL integration for them to get enough assets.
I didn't get enough graffiti artists in the game. Oh,
God.
Sorry.
I didn't want to stomp on anyone's sort of point with that, but it just struck me that it escaped my list and it really was quite striking.
It's just also we don't get enough games in that genre. Ori was the one that I always cite as the one I've really enjoyed from the past few years. I haven't played Hollow Knight. I really need to get back to Hollow Knight before Silk Song comes out. And I don't have a Switch, so I can't play Dread. But if I did, that would be top of my list for sure. Yeah.
And just to confirm, it is Ubisoft Montpellier.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Good team.
Shane, what is on your list? So was Prince of Persia one of yours?
Prince of Persia was one of mine. So my last one is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2.
Tell us.
This is Saber, actually. Saber Interactive, and someone else. I think actually maybe the licensing team for Warhammer stuff.
Yeah.
Published by Focus again. Awesome. This first game, tail end of the 360 PS3 era, I want to say. Awesome mix of third-person Gears of War shooting, but also third-person melee combat. We could just switch between the two at whenever you wanted to. And I don't think it reviewed fantastically, but it was just a solid game, 10 odd years ago. And this one looks really, really good. I think it's day one Game Pass as well, which is great. I'm not sure if there's any multiplayer or co-op. It feels like the type of game that does. Oh, actually, co-op campaign. Yeah, so there's some co-op. Nice, exciting. I think it looks fantastic. And you just, I think quality licensed games, are a dime a dozen sometimes. So, I'm actually just really looking forward to just slaughtering stuff in this title.
For how many Warhammer games that come out every year somehow, there's always more, and they never stop. So people are buying them, I guess. But for how many that come out, sorry, my cat's coughing behind me. If you can hear that, sorry. But how many that come out, like Darktide and the strategy.
How does your cat cough, Gary? Does it cough like the picture?
Kind of, yeah, but not with that face, but the sound.
That's so funny.
It sounds very uncomfortable. You right, Kat? Yeah, she's right. But yeah, for how many Warhammer games come out, and there's all the strategy games, and there's the Dark Tides and the Vermintides, sort of 4-player horde-based games. I've always thought that the concept of the original Space Marine game was a really good avenue for this franchise. That story-focused, directed, third-person action shooter sort of game seems perfect for the setting that they have for that. So I am interested to see how this second one is.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what's your final pick?
No, that was it, because Prince of Persia, Alan Wake, and John Carpenter. Those are my three. Yeah, those are mine.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll have to talk about my last one as Griff continues to cough her guts out. But my final one, and speaking again to the point of why was this not at the PlayStation Showcase, was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Shane, for a small bit of context, we loved Remake when it came out in 2020. Maybe my favorite game full stop.
Oh.
And so I've just been patiently waiting and seeing this trailer. I couldn't stop grinning. And like I was talking to Jeremy about a game like a game we were playing at some point. It made me laugh out loud. It was Zelda. It's doing something in Zelda made me laugh out loud a bunch of times. But even when I was on my own, I don't tend to laugh or like smile lots when watching something when I'm on my own. You know, I don't notice myself doing that. But I just couldn't help but notice how much my cheeks were raised and my face I was just grinning watching this trailer. And like, there's lots of small details here. I'm only surface level familiar with some of the original game. So seeing a couple of locations that I'm vaguely familiar with is like, oh, I'm finally get to figure out what that actually is really cool. Like the beachside cannon installation from Shinra, that's cool. And but all of the random story shenanigans they're pulling in this remake trilogy, I guess, where things are going to be different, but they're also the same and they're happening at the same time, multiple timelines, metaverse bullshit. I'm so here for it. Like all the characters being loaded into ambulances at the start of the trailer, that never happened in the original. It also didn't happen at the end of the first game. No. So like, what the fuck was that?
No idea what that was.
It's very, very exciting. The confirmation that it's not coming this year is not surprising. No. But the reconfirmation that it will be coming early 2024 is just so exciting, especially with 16 10 days away. Yeah. I'm absolutely thrilled that Final Fantasy the Final Fantasy fans are eating good, of which I count myself among, at least modern ones. Yeah. Like that's it. Like I wouldn't even say the trailer was like groundbreaking or anything like that. It was just this thing that I'm so ready for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you just want confirmation that it's coming and it's close, right? Nothing that they show you is going to sell you more on it. So just tell me when it's coming. Tell me when
exactly.
You get it. Yeah.
I reinstalled Remake to get the final trailer and the final trophy in the DLC that I don't have yet, which is this one optional boss that's just kicking my ass. And I've spent like hours on it this weekend, and I'm going to spend more, and I'm going to get it. And it's been so nice to be in that world again.
It's also good to get reconfirmation this game is coming, especially after the hilarious daily posts that they've been putting on Twitter with just the ridiculous questions from various department heads of this game. Just my favorite one was the last one, which was the developer comment number 7, which was the question was, when can I find out more about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And the answer from the creative director, Tetsuya Nomura, was more information will be revealed soon. And that is the entire like question and answer, which people waited an entire day for.
Please be excited.
Yes, yeah. It was like please clap level like stuff, which was so fucking funny.
It turns out I did hear about something about this, Jeremy, in that the highlighted words, because each post had sort of words that were small and then words that were highlighted in green and much larger. And apparently those words all together in Japanese actually kind of made a coherent kind of second message. But the translation of the individual messages into English, which were then highlighted, didn't get that like second message across, apparently.
That's hilarious.
That's
I love it.
So fucking funny.
There's some hardcore English speaking Final Fantasy fans out there who like at the 11th hour just like, what the hell does it mean?
Square Enix is one of the dumbest companies in the entirety of the games industry, and I never actually want them to change because they are so hilariously stupid sometimes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's a funny little, I don't even know. Like, no one asked them to do that. It would have been so much more exciting if they hadn't been doing this, like,
terrible job,
like, lead up to this trailer at Summer Games Fest. That was so vague.
It's so funny.
There will be new music in the game.
Yeah.
There is combat. The characters have a story. Like,
goodness gracious.
Okay. So yeah, that's it. That's it for this week. Nothing too much, you know, just a casual week in the games industry.
Yeah.
For real though, this is such this has been, like I said at the start of the show, and I really meant it. This has been such a fun week of discussion and announcements and people getting hands-on impressions at summer play days, which is a very good beneficial thing that Jeff organizes that should be, continued regardless of what we think of his press conference structure. Yeah, I've had such a ball this week catching up on all the exciting announcements. But yeah, any final thoughts before we close it out here?
No, I love this week as well. Like it feels, like when they're all condensed like this, it's nice, right? Like there was those COVID years where it's like, well, you got Xbox in June and Ubisoft rocks up in July and PlayStation sometimes in September. Wasn't the same.
No, it really wasn't.
So yeah, to have them all together again is really, really nice. And I've been seeing like a bunch of people over there at like Xbox Fan Fest, just posting pictures. Like it's good to see that community together. So yeah, this is, I don't get up for much at 3 o'clock in the morning, but yeah, I'm happy when Xbox gives me a good reason to. And yeah, as a fan, I'm stoked. It was just such a good day to be a gamer.
Totally. Yeah. Fingers crossed for their future releases and the next 12 to 18 months. But
you said it, Kara. It's just like they've shown it now. They've delivered on a showcase. They just now actually have to deliver the game. So these games have to come out and they have to be quality. That's
There was a familiar feeling that I enjoyed when my alarm went off at 2:45 this morning. I was like, oh, it's actually been a minute. That is like, what a stupid thing to enjoy, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's like occasionally, I don't do it very often, but I'll listen to Linus Tech Tips, their podcast, which is him and Luke, his other long-standing employee, and they'll talk about how, like, Luke specifically will talk about how he's like such a glutton for punishment in a way where his genuinely like favorite memories and times are the times where like work went too far, where it was like he had to stay up for like 2 days straight to like get something over the line, or like when they got hacked recently and he's like, oh man, I love those moments. They're so stressful and it's such a challenge, and we knuckle in and we get it done and we're running on adrenaline. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a certain excitement to getting up at 3 a.m. Even although it's, it knocks out the sleep schedule, and, like Shane, you've been like, if you've been up since 3, right?
Yeah, I've been up going on 20 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's amazing. Thank you for spending this much time with us tonight. It is, while that is an extreme side of things, I also get it.
No, thanks for having me, guys. This has been a blast. I used to have a podcast. I just don't have the time to produce and host one anymore. So the opportunity to just come on and just talk and not have to do any work is actually really nice.
Yeah, we've loved having you on. It's been such a good time.
If you're ever desperate again, you let me know.
Oh yeah, well, even if we're not, I think we're trying to get through a sort of backlog of people we've had on our mind to come on for a little while. But once we get a few more people through, we'd love to have you back. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
I'll bring you on for the Halo Season 2 recap, where I'll make you watch the entirety of that show.
It's just me crying the whole time.
Yeah.
Shane just disconnects from the call.
Yeah.
We never see him again. Yes, thank you, Shane, for sticking with us as we go along, as always.
Pleasure.
But also, thank you to the audience. Thank you for everyone who here is listening, watching, whether you're here live or after the fact. These last couple of weeks of having guests on, but also this event season, it's been so much fun. So thank you, everyone, for being here. That brings us to the end of the MiniMapCast for the week. Let me quickly scramble to find what our next topic is for next week. It looks like it's going to be, unless we really, really, really want to talk about Ubisoft and Capcom's conferences for most of the show, I'd be surprised. If we don't do that, then we will be doing our mid-year Game of the Year check-in episode. So just thinking about what is sort of sitting at the top of the list after Zelda.
I humbly submit Hi-Fi Rush. That's my one at the moment.
Yes, that's a good one. That is a good one. I remember that. I always love going through the list and finding the ones I forgot about that I do really love and putting them in there. Like RE4, I think is going to slip through the cracks for me by the end of the year. but I'm going to read it again by the end of the year and be reminded of how much fun I had playing it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that mid-year check-in discussion for all of those things. Let me find now I've lost my outro. Here it is. Okay. If you want to find out when the next episode goes live or when this episode goes live, the best way to make sure you don't miss those episodes is on our socials at MiniMapAU. You could follow us individually on Twitter and places as well. Jeremy, where can they follow you on Twitter?
At Obi1Jez.
You can follow me on Twitter at KJPalmer_24. And Shane, where can they follow you on Twitter?
At It's Shane Bailey.
And yeah, I guess last minute, if you wanted to sort of plug anything while you're here, just while as you've given us so much of your time.
Yeah. Thank you. Game on Cancer is the initiative of Cure Cancer. So GameOn_Cancer on Twitter. GameOnCancer.com.au is the website. If you happen to be super rich and not suffering through the cost of living crisis right now, and you can afford to make a tax deductible donation to cancer research, please consider that. You can do so on our website.
Yeah, and it's an amazing cause. It sounds like amazing work you're doing over there. You're talking about the sort of concept for a charity thing you're organizing during our break that I love the sound of. So
yes.
maybe you'll see Jeremy and I involved with something along those lines in the future. Who knows?
100%. Yeah, let's tease that for sure. I'll make it happen.
Yeah, no, that I'd love to. And if it doesn't, I'll happily promote it anyway. But yeah, otherwise, you can also head to minimap.com.au for everything else Minimap related. We were talking about our Minidisc Game Club podcast in the break, like our Catherine episode, which was just a bit longer than this one, as well as our latest articles are there. For those of you that are live with us on Twitch, stick around. You'll get the outro to the show, but we'll be back afterwards. For those of you listening later, make sure to give us those so tasty 5-star ratings. I really want to rewrite that at some point. It helps us out a lot. And consider joining us for the live show if you're available next week. It's a great time. Lastly, if you are able to, after you've made a tax-deductible donation to, pardon me, I've forgotten the...
Cure Cancer.
Cure Cancer. Thank you. Because I got confused with your game specific URL as well. Pardon me. With Cure Cancer, you could also head over to Patreon if you want to help keep the lights and mics on. You could do that by heading on over to patreon.com/minimapau, and for $5 you get 24 hours of early access for all episodes of the MiniMapCast, as well as some great benefits while helping us out and the show greatly. Thank you so much for sticking around. Have a good rest of your week, everybody. And we'll be back next week with our mid-year check-in. See you later.